Hello, everyone. I'm Eric D'Souza, and you're joining me again for another episode of Crime Rising Canada's podcast, where we discuss crime fiction from authors from coast to coast. Joining me today is the author Lorrie Potvin. How are you today?
I'm great, Eric. Thanks for having me.
We are continuing our discussion with authors and members of Crime Writers of Canada who have been nominated for an award. And I can say that one of the hardest ones to get nominated for is the Best Unpublished Crime Novel Manuscript, written by an unpublished author sponsored by ECW, because a lot of people submit to this. And I'm always very happy to speak to the nominees for this award. A little bit about you, Lorrie. Lorrie is a tradeswoman, artist, and teacher. Lorrie Potvin, queerishly two-spirited citizen of the Métis Nation of Ontario, is the author of Horses in the Sand, a memoir published in 2022. Her first book, First Gear, a motorcycle memoir, was published in 2015, and also essays, My Tattoos Speak of Life and Loss, and Why I'm Thankful for Multiple Sclerosis, published in the Globe and Mail, was published under her previous surname, Jorgensen, as was the short story The 13th Dock, Writing at Wintergreen, an anthology edited by Helen Humphreys. Working and teaching in the trades for over 30 years, Potvin holds the Inter-Provincial Red Seal in auto body repair and refinishing from Algonquin College, and a diploma in technical education from the Faculty of Education, Queen's University, in addition qualifications in manufacturing and special education. In 2022, she was named an Alumni Award for Distinction recipient of the Algonquin College for Apprenticeship and was a nominee for the Ontario Premier's Award in the same category. Winner in the Sisters in Crime's 2024 Pride Award for Emerging 2SF LGBTQIA+ writers, Lorrie lives near Perth with her partner Paula and Tig, a Cairn Terrier, writing and creating art from scrap metal. I visited your website, Lorrie, and I had to take a look at your art. It's beautiful, and it's not just metal. I think there's a lot of carvings and other things too. Very talented artist, very talented writer, and Lori, if you don't mind, we discussed this before because it's going to be a little bit of a reveal. But one of the hardest things to do nowadays is to get people's attention and to do it quickly in your writing. And you definitely got my attention within three, four paragraphs because I had to go back and read it again, just make sure I understood what just happened. Um, I'll read the first line because it already sets the tone. Anna's little legs ran the well-trodden trail through the high grasses and wild flowers of the meadows towards her grandparents' farm. Um, I'm seeing wholesome warning bells for me are going off only because I know this is crime fiction and anything can happen. I was worried that maybe a bear or a bad person was going to come along, but what you did within three chapters is perhaps worse. So, without saying too much, but you can't, you have to say some. What happens to poor Anna?
Yeah. Well, and I had someone else read it and they thought, is this the right book? Is this an epilogue? Is this something that, is out of place? So it's actually a scene where Anna is um, flash going back in time to a place where she felt safe, and then it it that ends when a man grips her face and forces her to look at him because she's basically being trafficked, like in the sex trade, and that that's the twist, and it kind of is a bit of a shocker because of how, like you said, wholesome it starts. So it, yeah, so that's the beginning.
You definitely hooked me very quickly. You tell a little bit of the story of Anna, but then in the second chapter, we go to Grace. I can't guess too much, but I'm wondering if they're friends or related. I know their stories are going to intercollide. Grace has a lot going on in her life, though. Um, so let's talk about your protagonist, Grace. They say to throw everything at her and make her life very difficult, and you definitely did that. So how does she
Yeah,
handle it, and what have you done to her?
yeah. Well, Grace, actually, most interesting is that A Trail's Tears is a sequel to A River's Grief, which, but A Trail's Tears really, I knew the end, beginning, and I knew the ending, and Grace was a character I'd already developed. And so she's stubborn. She doesn't really, she listens to her grandmother, but her grandmother has passed on. So she's always apologizing to her grandmother for the things that she knows that she shouldn't be doing. But she's stubborn, she's persistent, and she's driven to find Sonny, who is missing. And so, and she's on the outs with her love interest Reggie, and they seem to be butting heads uh, at every turn because he wants her to stay safe, and she's all in on finding Sonny. So that's a conflict as well for her. But she was fun to write about and create, and yeah, he's central, obviously, to the story.
Um, Another thing I admire about your writing is foreshadowing. There's a lot of, I don't know, foreshadowing is the right word, but there's also a lot of uncertainty, which keeps you on your toes. To tell you the truth, I was going to even ask you, is the grandmother still alive? I wasn't 100% sure.
Oh,
I was fairly certain that she passed, but I was
yeah,
like, I could still
yeah,
see her in a scene almost. So, but that keeps sort of the tension even in untense moments because I'm trying to figure out, trying to put the clues together, and it's very well done because, well, I'll tell you this too. She was part of the grandmother's council, which I'm like, I want to know more about this grandmother's council. So, what could you tell me about that? Because they seem to be very powerful, which you don't expect.
yeah. Well, I wanted to. Now, I didn't write anything about that I haven't experienced myself. But I had a wonderful opportunity to connect with grandmothers in the community who are on a council, and they uh, uh, described the inner workings to me, which I can't really share because it's not my story to share their experience. I know what I had created my uh, the first time that Grace was going to be involved with a grandmother's council as a helper. Then I had her conveniently get a phone call and had to be pulled out of that council moment. But I wanted to also uh, create that matriarchy where it's recentering of women and children and grandmothers and elders, and where the council is the one that makes the decisions and guides the community in the best way forward in finding Sonny. So grandmother Joanne is actually a character that I've based on a grandmother that I've met and interacted with, and just added a couple little extra quirks for her.
Joanne's an interesting character too. Um, you do some interesting things with her as she butts head with, I don't know, you want to call it establishment. It's probably the right word. Um,
Yes,
and she she's smart. Maybe that's the best word for her. But when she even makes a comment, she's like, "We're taking back our land," and then you say, like, "I don't even know that I'm not technically from here. They only see they only see me as an indigenous person. They don't
yeah,
know that I'm Cree." So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a very interesting take. I think maybe we should shift to setting because we've been alluding to it a little bit. So where is the story
right,
taking place? Where is Two Rivers?
yeah. Well, it's really, I've kind of rejigged the geography of the Ottawa Valley. I grew up there. I played sports in Pembroke, Renfrew. I played hockey in Mattawa. I played, um, and I traveled. I've been up and down Highway 17. I can't remember how many times. So it's in the Ottawa Valley, and I've just kind of moved Mattawa closer to Deep River, and I've pulled in Sudbury, where I was born, kind of closer. So that's the setting is really in the heart of the Ottawa Valley.
And what about the community? What is the valley like?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So Two Rivers, like with Mattawa, it's small. It's its own independent uh, community, although they there is sort of a police presence, more of just, let's just drive through town. And but like with all small communities, especially along the river and other um, communities, there's always churches. So the grandmothers decide that they're going to um, take over the church and its property to use as search headquarters. And they're stubborn and they're not going anywhere. Um, and that's really by some folks in the story not doesn't go over very well with grandmothers taking over the council or the community, because they make a call out for everyone
Mhm.
to come, and then trouble starts.
I fell in love with the grandmothers. Maybe it's the type of characters I like to read about, but I enjoyed them. Um, for you, this is sort of a departure from the previous things that you've written because you've written a lot of memoir. This is your first fiction. Was there a reason why you wanted to make the switch or the change?
Well, yeah, I didn't start writing until I was in my late 40s, and it was a way of me trying to understand childhood trauma, where I came from, and also to discover who I was, because I found out that I wasn't the biological child of the man who I thought was my father. So I always felt different as a kid. I was this little queer kid running around in the bush, uh, and I was. But what one of the things that grounded me most was my mom's bookcase, and it was full of romantic mysteries and crime novels. And I didn't really necessarily go to the library, but I just devoured the prime books on her shelf. Add a little romance to that, and I read the genre every day, and I've always wanted to uh, write a mystery, write a crime or a thriller, um, and through COVID, well, previous to COVID, I started with the um, A River's Grief, and then A Trail's Tears was my uh, COVID project. And I really felt, and I don't do a lot of writing in the summer because I want to be outside and I have things to do. But so the first winter I wrote maybe 30,000 words, and then the second year of winter of COVID, I finished it. And there was times where I couldn't write the book fast enough because it was just, I knew the ending and I just needed to get there. And so yeah, it's was something that I mean, I'm incredibly honored and surprised and grateful that it um, turned out the way it turned out. It was, yeah, it was fun to write.
Uh, yeah, like a lot of people, they kind of have to shelve their first fiction books. I'm so glad you didn't, even though I guess technically it's your second, but it's written like an old hand, like somebody who's been doing this for a long time. A lot of clever
So,
tricks, not just the beginning one. I revealed it because there's more. Um, there's also strong themes that are obviously very apparent to you that you're starting to emerge. But what did you want to say with it?
well, I wanted to talk about the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and bring attention to, um, that tragedy, that genocide of women um, still going missing and unaccounted for, and and lost. Really, the uh, too many times we see cases where uh, women who are white go missing, and then there's this uproar and there's the pushback and media attention. So I wanted to bring attention to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, as well as talk about with Anna. So it's the dual point of view where Anna is caught up in that world of sex trafficking by a biker uh, gang, and uh, I've read some horrible stories of how women are trafficked along Highway 17 from Montreal up to Thunder Bay and their experiences. And it was, yeah, there was like two really tough themes, subjects
Mhm.
to put out there and talk about. Uh, at the same time, I wanted to also approach it in my way, which is funny, quirky characters who, with this setting that, um, you know, that hopefully it doesn't take away, but it makes it easier for the reader um, to get through those tough scenes and those tough moments.
Yes. I'm very much hoping, I'm hoping A, Crime Writers of Canada helps in some sense that people, publishers, see this. I very much hope so because you only submitted the first four chapters and I want to know what else happens. And that might be the only way I find out. Personally, if I was a betting man, I'd say in about a year's time, if I talk to you again, you'll be like, yeah, I signed a contract. So I'm hoping that's true. I could also wish you the best of luck for winning the award itself. I tell everyone I don't know who won. There's three members of Crime Writers of Canada who've been nominated, and I'm wishing all of you the best of luck.
Well, thank you so much, Eric, and it was such a pleasure spending time with you today. And it was really cool to get your invite. And yeah, this has been nice.
It was very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.